Welcome, everyone. This is the Mosaic Arts Online free live event. What a great time to have everybody here, and welcome. If this is your first time here, we're so happy to have you here. And if you have been with us for prior events, welcome back. We are trying to do these as often as possible, and when we have amazing things to share like we do today. And I'm so happy to share with you that Caitlin Hepworth is with us all
Hello,
the way
everybody.
from, yes, New South Wales, Australia. It is 11:30 in the morning Saturday for Caitlin. It is 5:30 here in California, and I'm sure many of you are from all over the globe sharing this time with us. And how amazing that we can do this with our cyber world that we do sort of live in now. If we all cannot be together, then let's do it this way, where it is really happening right now, this moment. Caitlin and I are together live. We have a lot to share with you. And what we want to talk to you about today is Caitlin's new course, which is called Salvaged Treasure, Mixed Media Mosaics. And there is so much to talk about with this course. It's really special. It's really different, and it is so rich. It is something I think that can hit everybody because it's a really personal experience of what she's going to share with us today. So the way it'll work is that we are going to dive right into a small PowerPoint presentation that Caitlin has put together for us that kind of tells you from the beginning how Caitlin started as an artist and takes you all the way through to why this course was so important to bring to Mosaic Arts Online and how it can teach so many other people something that she really taught herself, which was something very therapeutic, you might say, in a way. So we'll get into that. And then after the presentation, if there is some time, we'll talk about questions. If you have any, please put them in the chat. Also, please say hello from wherever you are. We love knowing where you are coming in from and joining us. So all the way from New South Wales, Australia, I'd love to introduce to you my good friend and one of our amazingly talented mosaic art instructors from Mosaic Arts Online, Caitlin Hepworth. And before you get started, just everyone stay till the end because we do have an amazing bonus gift for you. So without further ado, I will let Caitlin take it from here.
Thank you very much, Tami. Well, it's wonderful to be here. And as some of you know, this is the second course that I'm presenting for Mosaic Arts Online. The first one was in sculptural mosaics, which is one of my main passions. And this second course is in mixed media mosaics, which is one of my other main passions. And I wanted to tell you a bit about the course today, but to start with, I thought it was relevant to share a little bit about my background as an artist and what I've done in the past that sort of helped build, or how the knowledge has built for me over the years to where I am now, and which gives some relevancy to what we're doing here in this course. So I've got the samples of the course just here in front of me and a lovely mixed media mosaic behind me. Yeah. I'm in my studio, which I'll take you through later. We've got a film towards the end of the hour, and I'm going to tour you around this space. But first of all, let's just go back in time, and Tami's going to share some slides, and I'm going to talk you through the last sort of 25 years in brief.
All right, here we are. Do you see it, Caitlin?
Okay, yes, I can. Thanks, Tami. Okay. So that's obviously our title slide, which is the course, and it shows you the image of the 3 samples that we do in the Salvaged Treasure Mixed Media Mosaic course. So Tami, if you'd like to go to the next slide. Okay, so where did I start? Well, I've always been creative. I've always been artistic, but I had a few false starts at university. I went off and studied anthropology and politics and psychology and Italian, and none of that really worked out. And I finally thought, right, really, I need to go and study fine arts. So that's what I did. I went off to the National Art School, which is a studio-based school in Sydney, and I did a Bachelor of Fine Arts. And I focused on, my major was sculpture, and my minor was drawing. So that was an advanced diploma of fine art, then transferred to a Bachelor of Fine Art. And I was just so fortunate to study there because we had such a good grounding. We did 9 hours of drawing a week, life drawing, research drawing, experimental drawing, printmaking, photography. sculpture, digital art, art history, you name it, it was wonderful. So this is a slide of one of a series of work I did on the figure. I did a lot of casting, aluminium casting, plaster casting, ceramic casting, etc. Following that, I went into a job as a museum educator at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Sydney, and I was talking to groups and students, talking them through the contemporary art exhibitions. And then I thought, well, I'd better do something with my degree, so that I went and did a master's in visual arts teaching in secondary visual arts. And then I graduated from that in 2001. So at that point, I was ready to start sharing skills with students. Tami, next slide. So from there, I embarked on pretty much a 10-year institutional teaching career. So that included, as I said, the Museum of Contemporary Art and the Powerhouse Museum and some other institutions, as well as working as a high school teacher. Now, I love teaching kids, and I find high school kids particularly engaging and challenging at the same time. And as a visual arts teacher, I had to teach everything. So I had to really be abreast of all the contemporary artists that were showing around the world. I had to be able to teach photography, teach printmaking, teach sculpture, teach drawing, as well as teach theory. And that was 50% of the load was theoretical teaching. The other thing I did do was I was really fortunate to work with a fabulous director of performing arts at one of the schools I was at, and we put on a huge number of very large scale productions. And I was the set designer and set painter. So in this slide, you can see it's a 14-meter long painted cornfield pictured in the Riverside Theatre in Sydney. So funnily enough, this skill has then transferred to now when I'm doing mosaic murals, and I'm able to conceptualize, what does a 14-meter long cornfield look like? What does a 6-meter sunset look like? And how am I going to scale up my ideas, etc. And so I did that to about 2012 when I left high school teaching and moved on to other things. Next slide, thanks, Tami. So in 2010, I was starting to get a little sick of just a little bit sick of the high school teaching, and not so much the teaching part, but the box ticking and the administration. And I felt like I wasn't really teaching art. I was spent all my time grading papers. So I decided to set up my own studio. So I established Hughes Studio, School of Art and Mosaic, and that was in 2010. Now this started in my garage at my then house. First class, I had 3 people, actually 2 people, 3 including me. One of them was my mum, go mum. The other one never came back. So that went well. And I thought, oh no, maybe this is not for me. No, keep going, keep going. And I started building from there. I had 2 very young children at the time. I ran classes from my studio on days that I wasn't teaching the school. Then I left the school and then just kept going with my own private school. And next slide, thanks, Tami. So I using my visual arts skills.
Starting live stream.
Live streaming is on.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to the.
That's on your own.
All right, we apologize for that technical challenge. We are back now with Caitlin, and she's sharing her beginning times of starting the Hughes studio. So Caitlin, take it from here.
Okay, so I started the studio in my garage 2010, started to build skills, and really what I wanted to do was to bring my visual arts knowledge to my mosaic teaching and to mosaic students, and really get them to think about what they were doing a little bit more, to sort of move beyond decorative application, to get them to think a little bit more about concepts, to get them thinking about andamento, about texture, about material qualities, and all that kind of thing. So I won't share too much more about the studio because we actually are going to tour the space a little bit later in the hour. So I've really been trying to make the most of every learning opportunity that I could. Now, we have our association in Australia, which is called MANS, the Mosaic Association of Australia and New Zealand, which is a fantastic organisation. And it's through that I've met a lot of other mosaic artists and had a lot of very, very, very worthwhile learning opportunities through our symposiums. I'm also a member of SAMA, and I've been fortunate to travel over to a conference and to learn from amazing people over there. And also recently was the 2018 was the recipient of the Robin Brett Mosaic Scholarship, which is through SAMA, and with that I proposed to travel to the Chicago Mosaic School, which I did in 2019, and what a fantastic institution. And I undertook a course there with our maestro Verdiano Marti in sculptural mosaics, and it was called Modern Expressions 3D, and that was an absolutely incredible time with Verdiano. Another incredible learning opportunity, of course, is with maestro Giulio Menossi. I was invited to participate in the 3rd Symposium of Contemporary Mosaic Art in Sardinia in September 2018, so nearly 2 years ago, and working with such amazing artists from all around the world. We had 12 artists there from everywhere, getting to know those people, watching them work, looking at them problem solve, observing their practice, and of course, tuition from Maestro Menossi as well. So, look, they are just a couple of the learning opportunities I've had. I still go to life drawing classes at the uni. I go regularly and have tuition on my own drawing. So I'm always learning, and I also learn from my students. So it's not just about, teaching isn't just about passing on information, but it's also about continuing to be a student yourself, continuing to learn, then taking in that knowledge and distilling it down into something that fits with my own practice, and then also then embedding my teaching with some of the skills that I've learned. So it's a very cyclical thing, and it's not one way, it's not linear, it's very organic, and it's very cyclical actually. Tami, next slide please. Okay, so further to what I was saying about my own work, and I'm talking earlier about trying to embed the idea into students that they want to use their technical skills to communicate an idea of their own and to develop their own voice. And my particular thing is to communicate or to process my own life experiences through my work. So my earlier sculptural training then came together with my mosaic practice. My early mosaics were very flat and quite decorative, but when I started to think, oh, okay, I can actually bring my mosaics and my sculpture together. I went to a one-day workshop with Marion Shapiro, a workshop that I'm sure many of you have done, which is the bend, fold and undulate workshop. And in that day, I just thought, hang on a minute, this is like sculpture. I could make sculptures like this. And all of a sudden, I brought my sculptural training together with my mosaic knowledge, and then I was able to really rock and roll with sculptural mosaics. So these are a couple of my pieces, Phoenix and Anastasis, that exemplify that. My work is very personal. It tracks my life, it tracks my journey, it tracks my, often my emotional states. Next slide, please, Tami. All right, well, this isn't a very nice image, but some of you know that in 2013, we had a very catastrophic bushfire here where I live in the Blue Mountains, and 200 homes were lost in one afternoon, and that included our home at the time, as well as my then husband's business and my studio and my school. So we had a pretty bad day all around, and this event continues. You know, we've recently had more catastrophic fires, and I know that all around the world people are experiencing extreme climatic events. So this was a big shock to me, but not only did I have to reestablish the studio, which I did, but I also needed to find some way of processing this experience in my own work. So I did spend a lot of time gathering materials from the site, so salvaging materials. And this links to this course because I do, in one of the pieces, this one here, Treasure, the final piece, I actually show how I've utilized jewelry that was collected from this site and was able to use that to remember and to treasure the memory that I did have. So next slide, please, Tami. So I spent a lot of time salvaging materials, buckets and buckets, and I had help as well from a lot of friends, particularly another mosaic artist, Vicky Bush, was amazing, and she was a student of mine at the time, and turned up with masks and gloves and buckets, and we just raided the site, and there was kilos and kilos of smulty that I knew I had. There were also mosaics that were there. I had hundreds of mosaic test ray, but also mosaics of other people's mosaics and my mosaics, and I was able to scrape off all the melted pieces from the substrates, which was quite sad and depressing, but then sort them, clean them, organize them, and then actually make a series of work out of them. So the regeneration series, or Works on Fire, there's probably about 27 works in this series that really track the regeneration of the bush, but also a bit of a metaphor for the regeneration of the community, as well as my personal, you know, dealing with the trauma. Next slide, please, Tami. So this piece actually is behind me. So it's right here. So on the screen, it probably looks tiny, but it's about 1.2 meters tall. And this is one I'm never going to sell. I've sold everything pretty much, but this one is not for sale. And this is pretty much my house. So from the bottom, we've got my roof tiles and my skylights. And as we move up in the mosaic, we've got tesserae from previous mosaics. I've got my porcelain ceramic ramekins from my kitchen. I've got jewelry. I've got my wedding necklace. I've got jewelry from my travels in India when I was 18. I've got salt and pepper shakers, the whole thing. So this is an example of salvaged, using salvaged materials in a mosaic, which is what I do in the second example in the course. So I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail soon, because I'm not using materials from my place, but rather somebody else's place. Next slide, please, Tami. And this also is in relation to my salvaged and mixed media. So this relates very much to this third mosaic. So this piece is called Lost Tribe. I was very fortunate to be awarded the first prize for the wall hanging in the wall hanging section of the 2015 Mosaic Association National Exhibition. This was also selected to be shown in MAI, Mosaic Hearts International, in 2016 in San Diego. It was selected to be shown at the Chicago Mosaic School Voices We Tell, Stories We Tell exhibition in late 2016. And then it's since then been sold. But this piece was really very, very cathartic. It represents a necklace. You can see that the white area in the oval shape is like a necklace that's been fractured. And it's to do with the loss of all my family treasures, my heirloom jewelry, my grandmother's necklaces, my mum's tiara, all of these things that I found in the rubble and was able to make latex molds and plaster casts of, and then reassemble these in a way that kind of created the idea of a fracturing of place, a fracturing of my place and a fracturing of my family. But then this idea of the organic line sort of really try to bind it back together again. So again, this is a mixed media mosaic, and it relates very much so to this treasure example, which is the third example. And I do talk about this work a little bit more in the course Salvaged Treasure. Next slide, please, Tami. Moving on from that, I did another series around 2018-19 on psychological states, and I created a series of weapons of the mind, and it's a little bit of a humorous but sinister look at my own mind. And again, wall hanging and hanging sculpture that rotates. So this is a self-portrait of me, the long black spinning piece. It's called Losing Touch, and it's me with my huge amount of hair, spinning, disorientated, and looking for to reorient myself in the world. So you can see that the work that I make is all very, very personal. It's not that I expect my students' work to be personal. They don't have to tell similar stories to me, but I do encourage them to tell their own stories. And I was actually speaking to one of my favorite students yesterday about this, and I was talking to her about when she's looking for a concept, you've got to go to your gut. You've got to make work that really means something to you, and you've got to go to your gut. You have to have a gut response to the idea. You have to have a gut feeling about the idea, because it's your gut that drives you in your practice through all those dark hours, valley of death, or whatever you want to call them, when you're struggling. If you're driven from your gut and they have a passion for the idea, that will actually fuel your practice. So that's what I try to do, and that's what I encourage others to do. Thank you, Tami. Next slide. And then this is my new series of work. I'm trying to get a little bit more positive. I'm moving on to a bit of a take on the idea of the response to trauma. People often say you fight, or freeze. And my response to trauma has been different to that. My response is freeze, fight, and then fly. And the fly is a positive end to that battle. So I'm working on a new series of work for an exhibition in a couple of years with another mosaic artist here. And without saying too much about that, we're both working loosely on the idea of flight. And these are two of my most recent works. The one on the left, I did start under the tuition of Verdiano Mazzi. The one on the right is actually a cast of my own bust. I cast it in plaster, then made some molds, and then made a fiberglass cast, and then this is a wall hanging piece, and it's symbolic of armor, or female armor, as in the woman or the mother, the defender, essentially, of the family. Okay, next slide, please, Tami. Okay, so that includes my spiel about my own work. I could honestly talk about it for years, but that's not why we're here. We're here to really discuss this course. So as you can see, we have the three samples here on the screen. And this is really about three different approaches to mixed media mosaics. So instead of saying, okay, we're going to do it one way, I'm demonstrating three different ways that you could access mixed media. And I've set up three different themes that you as students could pick up on and take in your own direction. And the first theme is Faucet, to find and gather. The second theme is Salvage, and the third theme is Treasure. Next slide, Tami.
Wait, what?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on one second. I thought it was over. So wait, one more slide. Here we are. Yep.
No, lots more slides.
Oh, wait, hold on.
We're just starting now to look at the slides of these pieces.
Right. Yes, I got it. My technical skills today. Okay.
Okay. So what we do in this course is we start with collecting. Now, it might take students a number of weeks, months to collect what they need. So I've established three collections here. So we've got on the left, we've got the Faucet collection, and that's been from beach walks and things like that, and bush walks. Then we've got the Salvage collection, which is actually from Tami's, the site of Tami and Jerry's property at Mosaic Hearts Online. And they were able to, they can tell me a bit more in a second when we zoom into that particular collection. But I was very fortunate to work with their materials. And the third one is to Treasure, and you can see there's a range of materials from the side of my house. Next slide, Tami. Okay, so this is the first piece. So this is the finished work, which is a Faucet. So I've worked into ready-made frames to make it easier, to make a more cohesive product, and I'm using a lot of natural materials. So you can see in the close-ups there, we've got shells, stones, slate. Next slide, please, Tami. And these have been collected from my local environment, which is something that you could do if you were to undertake this yourself. So for me, it's about plates, it's about bushwalking. This is where I live. I took these photos in the beautiful Blue Mountains, and I also enjoy going to the beach with my family and friends. So we collect things along the beach. We collect pebbles and shells. We collect things in the bush, and those things can be brought together. So you at home could look at maybe a holiday or a place you visit where you could collect natural materials from. Next slide, please, Tami. And what we do in this course for each of these three samples is to really break things down in terms of the elements. So we look at value. So you can see here we look at the materials that we have, both in color and black and white. We do some thin set samples, and we do some compositional or andamento plans, which you can see on the left. Next slide, please, Tami. And this is the Salvaged mosaic. Tami, do you want to jump in and say a tiny bit here about these materials?
Sure. We live on a property that is butted up to the landfill that used to exist back in the 40s. And so on our property, if you dig about a foot or a foot and a half down, you're bound to find jars and metal scraps and different things that have been living there since probably the 1940s and 50s. And so we're really fortunate, since this is something Kate and I both love to do, is forage for things that are already old. We don't have to age them. We don't have to go searching too far. So yeah, this is all pieces that we found on our property. And if you've been to the Santa Barbara School of Mosaic Art or just to our place, then you know that we live on a tiered property. And so this is part of the, what we like to call down below, or if you really know us well, it's Jerry Land.
So I was really honored to receive these pieces in the mail, and then I added a little bit to them from my own salvaged collection. And then we go through the process of developing this very textural mixed media mosaic. Next slide, Tami.
Yeah.
So this is a sample of some of the things that we were sent from Mosaic Hearts online. So there's a lot of utilitarian objects, and this is what I find really lovely, is that all of these things have had a previous life, had been touched by other people's hands, and being used in the act of either sharing food or drinking or medicinal uses. Or so it's wonderful to then be able to do something special with those pieces. And next slide, Tami.
Yep.
And again, the same process. We look at value, we look at thin set colors, we look at composition, and we look at andamento. And in this one, I use a blend, a thin set blend. I start at dark thin set at the bottom and work up to quite a light gray thin set at the top. We talk about how to back butter or to apply pieces that are three-dimensional or have concave backs, and how to look at sort of what you need to add to the collection, or what in fact you might need to omit or take out of the collection of materials that you have. Next slide, Tami.
And it's a really great way to learn about drawing and the tessellation that is not too technical, but still helps you plan for something when you're using this kind of found objects that are different and not uniform.
That's right. And I think the planning is really, really important. And I think sometimes people don't do enough of that. They just start sticking stuff down, and it's so much to consider, you know, looking at the color palette you've got, what you need to add, what you need to take out, what values you've got, and how it's all going to work together. Yeah. Thanks,
Exactly.
Tami. Next slide. And this is the third sample, which is the treasure, which is just here with me now. And this is quite a different approach, because we we do a dry lay. So essentially on paper, we lay it out and then fill the substrate, fill the whole area with thin set, and then lay it all in one go. So it's all laid into the wet thin set, and the areas, there's a lot of negative space in the mosaic. We can let go of that idea that we must fill up every single bit of the mosaic. We must not have big indices. We can have spaces. We can do whatever we like. So here we've had more space, letting things breathe. And I'm trying to create a little bit of the idea of a relic or an item in a museum that has some story behind it. Thank you, Tami. And this is the inspiration for that. So as I said before, this is a big bucket of stuff me and my friend dug up. A lot of, pretty much every single bit of that I have used. And there's buckets more. That's just one bucket. I must have had 9 buckets. So all used, and a lot of that has gone into this mosaic right in front of me. Next slide, Tami. And again, the same process of looking at value, looking at color, planning. And these drawings that I've included, I do these live. These are not sort of kind of studied, carefully redone for camera. It's just, that's what I did. in the 5 minutes in the tutorial. So it's very fresh, it's very loose, it's not overly sort of perfected in a way, because I want you to have an organic experience of what it's like to do this. And I think we might be nearly finished now, Tami, the slideshow. We are. This is our last slide. So I'm wondering if any questions have come through, Tami.
Have we had them? Let me ask our producer over here if we have any questions. No, we don't have any questions.
No questions.
I know. If anyone has any questions yet for Caitlin, please feel free to share. And I'm going to ask Jerry to come over here and get me out of this so I can get back to the screen where you are. How do it won't.
So you'll notice that they're in 3 ready-made frames. Now I started these with these frames just plain pine. They were very cheap to buy. Then I was able to stain them with some different stains, a lime wash stain, a Mural stain, and a black Japan stain to suit the subject matter in the images. Okay, there you are, Tami. You're back again. I can see your beautiful face.
There we are. This is us. So I guess I want to just quickly, since Caitlin's given us this amazing presentation of way more than what you would get if you just looked at our promo video of the course, which is so wonderful for you to share this with everyone, is that really this course is so amazing with the technical skills that you do bring to all of your work, which is incredible, but really using these found objects that are so easy, everything from just shells and stones and different things that are special you can find, like you say, on bushwalks or hikes or beach walks or whatever, to something like we talked about with what we found on our property. And Caitlin and I were talking a little earlier before we started this presentation about a tragedy that did happen here in Santa Barbara a couple years ago when we had a mudslide that killed 23 people in the middle of the night after a big fire. And many of you maybe know about that. And I did not know how to process that. It was too close to home for us. We did know some people, friends of friends that did pass away. We know very close friends of ours whose homes were wiped off the foundation and they were left with nothing. And they were just grateful that they did leave that night and didn't stay home. So I didn't know how to handle it. And so I started creating a piece, and it was found objects, but they were from our property. I was not about to go into Montecito and take anything off of people's properties. But what I did do was put 23 pieces of gold into the piece I made. And that represented every person that lost their life that night. And 2 bodies have still not been found. So there's a lot of catharsis that can be done in this type of work. There's also a way to do kind of memorializing family, friends, things that are really special. This just takes what we do as artists to kind of a much more personal level and really an incredible storytelling level. And I'm just so grateful to have this course with us because it really is different than a lot of the technical things that are important for us to learn. And it's really, really special. Jerry just reminded me of one other thing. Another commission I did really quickly was one of my clients loved lions. And so the family brought me a lot of heirlooms of his that meant things to him. And I incorporated those into the lion, and he has since passed away. And so they have that lion as something even more special for their family. So this course is just so rich, like I said, with what Caitlin teaches on the technical and then bringing your personal artifacts to it. So what else?
That's right. Yeah. And it's about what people themselves can do with this, because not everyone has experienced, well, hopefully, these types of tragedies, but there are plenty of other things, ways you can go about it, and particularly for the treasure one. I mean, if people have been given heirloom jewelry or heirloom crockery that's chipped or broken, or costume jewelry from somebody, a friend or someone that might have passed on, or a grandparent or something like that, you know, you can find objects that you treasure. They don't have to be jewelry. It doesn't have to be from a fire. It can be from any part of your own sort of experience. And this is just ways or paths that you could follow in order to do it. But you're right. I think it's very interesting the way that Mosaic really helps us heal and the healing power, particularly for trauma victims, and how that you can go into a process of healing in Mosaic. So it's been really a privilege to work with these items. It has, Tami.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome. And I was going to say also, like, not on a necessarily memorializing sort of thing, also that Jerry and I go out to the California desert a lot, and there's lots of abandoned mines and different things that you just look down and you can forage these amazing things. And then I come back inspired and want to make a mosaic out of them. And, it's kind of a beautiful merging of our relationships. Like, he introduced me to the desert. I introduced him to Mosaic. And here we are, I'm able to make something of these incredible pieces. So that's the Faucet part. Like, all three of these can intertwine, they can be together, or you can make them separately. And I love that this course comes with all three of these processes. I mean, from beginning to end, but you can watch each one as its own course. And 1 week you might want to make Faucet, and in 6 months later, you're like, oh my God, I got all these salvaged things. I can go back to that course.
Exactly.
And one. So
that's right.
It's really, really incredible what can be done with this. So it sounds like we may have a question coming in. Okay, really quickly, we're going to get this question to Caitlin. It's just so awesome.
Size of finished pieces.
Oh, they're asking, what's the size of the finished pieces that you're sitting behind there?
Okay, so the inside size is 6 inches by 8 inches. And the border is 3 inches.
Yep.
So in centimeters, 15, 18, 30, 35, 25, something like that. Yeah. Okay. So, but again, you don't have to use this size, and you don't have to use raw frames. You could buy a pre-made frame, a pre-finished frame that fits your idea and fits your material palette, and run with that. So it's very flexible. I do find, though, that if you go too small, you actually make life harder for yourself, because you have to really work within a small scale, and some of the materials that you use may not work well if they're broken down too much. Yeah.
Yeah. And we put into the PDF a few options for those frames to make it easier for everyone, depending if you're UK or if you're here in the States, but it's nothing that you can't go find at your own, craft store or thrift shop. And like I said, if you're not making 3 at a time, they don't need to match. They can be different. You can even use a frame like what Caitlin has behind her from her piece that is from the fire. So nothing has to be, these are not hard rules. The hard rules are learning what Caitlin does. So someone was asking, Caitlin, do you draw before you start setting the pieces? And can you share that a little bit more, like what's behind you of the tessellation drawings that are there that you did use, because that was a huge help in it not becoming too chaotic.
All right, so the 3 Andamento plans there are very important, because what I was trying to teach in this, and in the video it does explain it a bit more, but Andamento doesn't have to be all perfect and formal and traditional. But what it does do is it actually allows you to, an Andamento drawing allows you to strip out things. You strip out color or hue, you strip out value, you strip out texture. And then what you're left with is a graphic plan of the Andamento. Now, does that actually support your idea or not? Okay, so idea number 1, journey, a journey through a landscape. Idea number 2, layers in the land. Idea number 3, a necklace, like a museum or a history piece. So when I draw them, so I started by placing a couple of key pieces on the paper and then creating the flow around that. When I draw these and I look at these in black and white as a line drawing, I can still see the intended concept in these drawings, right? Without color, without texture, without value, none of it. Take all that out, and if you've just got your Andamento, is that actually supporting the idea? because we can lay tesserae in every way we want, and we all know that there's millions of ways to do it, from traditional to contemporary. The challenge is finding the right way to lay your pieces to support your concept. So if I had laid this particular one like a Roman mosaic, doesn't match. So you've got to try to build an andamento design that supports the idea.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question? I hope it does. But yes, the drawing came first. So the concept came first, then the materials, then the drawing, then the mosaic.
And that's it. It's, you're going to go down the road of treasure, but you've pulled all your treasure materials and tessera together, whether it's the bits from the fire or adding the gold smalty. You've got all your different things. And that's the creative part. You're just thinking in your, soul, heart, mind, however you want to put it together. And that's what you're going to put on your table. And now you look at all those and you go, okay, how can I make sense of this that does support like what you're saying? Yeah. So it is a process, but it makes for much more of a successful piece in the end. So
that's right. And we do supply the drawings in the PDF.
Yes.
So I'm not, it's suggesting that someone's going to do it like that, but it's just, you can see in the PDF what I've done and then transfer that to your own idea.
Yeah, and I think it helps having the drawings, even though they're really not something you would copy because you don't have the same materials. It is absolutely there as a tool to give you a better idea. Plus the grayscale. Plus, she does a whole thing on thin set and how to do a gradation in different pigments and what works best for each of the pieces and the story you're telling. So there, like I said in the beginning, this course is so rich, and none of the pieces are grouted. So these are all ungrouted mosaics, because she teaches you again how to do a bed of thin set mortar, whichever your choice of words are, and how using the pigments can make that. And even, what a gift to just show you how to really smooth it out, that she did in the treasure one, because it's all black and you don't want to have any bumps or gouges in the thing. So
there might be one or two.
Yeah, well, we won't tell anybody. You place a few pieces first to start. So someone's asking, do you place a few pieces first to start?
Well, in each one's different. So in terms of the drawing, yes, I would take key pieces from my collection and place them on paper and look at these are the heroes of the piece. These are the things I want to feature. So in the first one, we've got shells and large rocks that I wanted to feature. In the second one, particularly the bottle and the other bottle lids, etc. In the third one, some of the bezels. So I'd place them first, and then I'd build around them with other materials, either from the collection or what I add to it. When I start to lay, the first one I laid from the bottom up, the second one I laid from the bottom up, and the third one all at once. Started with the main bezels, then the main circle, and then that was all very fast. But as I said, we did a dry lay first on paper, so it was a matter of just swapping it over. The decisions had already been made.
Yeah, and I think that's the safest way you can feel like teaching this and having a successful piece, again, is the dry lay and on a piece of paper, that's close to your substrate and all that. There's a lot more that goes on in the course, but I think you're giving everyone a really good idea of how this can be done and how it is really different from a lot of the other courses that we do have here at Mosaic Arts Online, and how this can open up a whole new sort of path for people to take if they have these kinds of materials sitting around, which Lord knows I have bins of, and they just keep collecting until you have something that you can figure out how to make. So this course can really guide you on a success right away. So really, really great. Do you want to, if we have no more questions, or we can take more at the end, do you want to dive into the huge studio? Okay, we're going to take you all on a quick tour of, not quick, a really awesome tour of Caitlin's studio in Australia.
Okay, so I can't see the YouTube video yet, but essentially I wanted to show you a little bit about what I do here. I'm in the studio now, so I didn't want to drag a camera around my space because I'm running this whole thing off my phone. So I wanted to try to get something together in advance that I could show you, that gives you a good idea about the space and what it is that I do. I'll start in a minute by talking to you about the building, which is very special, and then go through the types of things that we do here. So we do a range of classes for children and adults in mosaics, primarily. It's my favorite thing, as well as visual arts and sculpture, ceramics, drawing, and painting. So I structure a program of weekly or fortnightly classes, and obviously over COVID, we've had to also do online classes. Are you there, Tami? I can see you. Here we go.
Are you seeing
I'm
it?
muted. Yeah, I'm seeing. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, so this is the beautiful building that I am in right now. This is the Woodford Academy. The Woodford Academy is a National Trust property, so it's a heritage property in the Blue Mountains, which is a World Heritage National Park. This gorgeous building was established in 1834 and has had a large, long history, from being an inn, a guest house, a private home, a very fancy mountains home at one point, and a boarding school. And it's in here that I have my studio. So the National Trust tenants this top level where I am. I'm just through that door right there. And the funds, the rent that I pay, helps to keep the building going. The actual rest of the building is set up as a museum, as you can see here. And I was fortunate enough to have a solo show installed through the museum back, I think it was 2016, 17. This is the space I'm sitting in now. I'm sitting in front of the big blue mosaic, and this is one of the studios. There's another studio adjacent, and I have the great pleasure of having some beautiful work on display over the years. Marion Shapiro, Rachel Bremner, Kate Butler. I've got Luca Barberini's work. I've had an Erin Pankratz in here. I've had Kelly Knickerbocker's work on display, as well as in a small gallery. Of course, we have all the other artistic paraphernalia. We have our smalty shelves, and we have our marble shelves. We have our vitreous glass shelves. We have our Hammer and Hardy collection. We have our, up till recently, our glaze and clay collection, our paints, our brushes, our paper. One of the other main things I do is host really wonderful guest teachers to run specialty workshops. So we've had Marion come a lot of times. I've had Margot travel from Canada to teach a beautiful jewelry, which I'm wearing today right here. We've also had, we're stopped on Margot now. We've also had Kelly Knickerbocker and Erin Pankratz, Helen Bodicum, Pamela Irving, and other teachers in other media as well. So Wendy Edwards, Rachel Bremner, there's Erin there. Beautiful, beautiful workshop, and also a beautiful body of students from the Blue Mountains and also beyond. People travel from interstate and sometimes overseas to attend, and there's Kelly with her fantastic, which one? There's so many Kellys, so many fantastic workshops. They're always very, very popular. The other thing we do here is we do a lot of larger projects. So this is a commission that we completed at the beginning of last year. It's a 18 square metre mural, which is 6 by 8 metres, no, 6 by 3 metres. God. And it was made in this very room on this very table. So we have, fortunately, I have this amazing group of very advanced students who've been learning mosaics not only with me, but all around the world for many years, and from a number of tutors. So we have a team of people who can work on this. So this was a really massive team effort with April Keogh and Linda Weiss and Cindy Topic and Vicky Bush. Inga Gardner helped out too. Kim Grant helped out. Kelly Wild helped out. Kate Butler helped out. So many people helped me out. I bet I've forgotten somebody. And also my juniors. I have some lovely juniors, Zusha and Georgia, who have started with me when they were 12, and they've been able to come in and work on this mural. So this has got 100,000 pieces of smelty and marble. Lots of color theory knowledge going in here, blending across the sky from yellow to blue due to my head in. It was a beach scene. It's for a client in Canberra at Kingston Foreshore, and a large job and a very difficult installation as well around a very difficult window in a restaurant servery. So the studio can produce large pieces like this. Currently, you can't see, but the table is covered with a mural I'm doing with a primary school up the road. I've got 60 kids. So this is the finished product of the mural. The other thing we do is work on other projects. So this is Marion and I, we were invited by Rachel Sager, who is another Mosaic Arts online instructor, to contribute a mosaic to the Ruins project in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to go into the map room. And we decided to take the approach of working with a heat map of Australia or a fire map. So we had 1 or 2 sessions here before COVID, and then we had to split between studios. So we were shipping the mosaic backwards and forwards between her studio and mine. And then we were going to install it when we went. We were going to go to Sama last May and then go to Pittsburgh and install it. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But we will get there one day, hopefully, and maybe able to contribute something else as well. So that's kind of the major events we have, as well as our regular program, which is delivered by me. So I have had a range of tutors over the years in different forms, but primarily I deliver the courses. So specialty workshops in sculpture or mosaics, and then a program of weekly classes. So we have about 70 students a week or fortnightly now come through to do their program. So I try to teach students to develop their own thing. Everyone in the adults classes, they're all working on their own projects, and I'm advising them. So I show them techniques or give them technical advice that they may need, or I demonstrate, but essentially I'm helping them to do their thing. Also, the dynamic between the students is outstanding. So I learn as much as they learn, and they learn from each other as much as they learn from me. So I'm really the facilitator. I'm not the knower of all things by any means. We have lots of kids classes. This is Cindy, the lovely Cindy, with her darling little mini mosaicus. And this is my Rembrandt class, one of my more advanced children's art classes when we're doing ceramics and sculpture. So in addition to the adults classes, there's the kids classes where we run the kids mosaics, also visual arts. I really try to teach children broadly about art. I think there's far too much going on with, now I'm drawing, but far too much focus on drawing and not enough focus on other things. And kids get all screwed up because they get a paintbrush and then suddenly it doesn't look like a pencil mark anymore. They need to be exposed to lots of different art forms. So we try to do with pastels and printmaking and painting and sculpture and watercolor painting, and really try to broaden their knowledge. This is one of my collaborative drawings. I get them to work together. We do a lot of these. I just put a huge roll of paper out and I go draw. I make them move around the room. They don't own their drawing. They have to keep going and building up a collaborative effort. These are some of the beautiful pastels that my little ones have done. You can see that such a young student is making beautiful work. And then example here of my adults classes with just their things going on too. So we have a really broad range of things. The building itself is stunning to work in. You can see the stained glass window behind me. Outside this window is what looks like a Hogwarts courtyard. We also have up to 12 resident ghosts. There's a program called Haunting Australia. Yeah, it's called Haunting Australia. It's and it features this property. So I don't have any problem. The ghosts really like me and they're really nice. I have had my car door opened and closed for me. But sometimes we have things flying off shelves. We've had kilos of gold thrown across the room. We've had jars fly off the table. We have things turning. Even the children have seen it and been freaked out because they didn't have any reference point as to what on earth was going on. But it is a really lovely place to work. It is drafty as hell. It is freezing in winter. And it's boiling in summer. It's lovely. Now, this is another example of my practice of teaching practice. So this course that we are introducing today was filmed exactly like this. So I also have a home studio where I do my own work and where I film. So I have a film studio set up with my lights and my cameras and my computers and my monitors, and I'm able to deliver courses like this. So I'm filming here a watercolor tutorial called Divine Fruits. And I'm demonstrating very, very basic compositional drawing and drawing of shapes and things. And I really put this in to show you how this is done, how I'm doing what I'm in this course. And it was done in the same way. And we're very fortunate that through COVID, I was able to then transfer all my classes to online learning, which were also delivered in the same way. So I'm pretty much sat on my chair for 3 months, didn't move, and delivered online by Zoom. And I have intermediate groups now that are running around the country. So people from Queensland and Victoria and in the city and out in the country, and they can all come together on an online class and participate. And that's all delivered online. So in a similar way to this. So this year has, I think, challenged absolutely everyone in terms of how to possibly, how do we all keep going? How do we keep doing the things that we love to do? How do we keep teaching? How do we keep learning? How do we keep engaging with each other? Because we're not allowed to, or less so now, but we weren't allowed to interact physically and in physical studio space. But we were able to reopen the studio. I've had to reduce my numbers. I've had to reduce the people in the room, and I've changed things a bit to make things more appropriate for the current restrictions. But overall, I think we've done really, really well. Yeah, so now I think this is almost not quite the end of the video. There's a little bit more. But Tami, do you have any questions?
Well, yeah, I was going to say that, for us with COVID, we have, definitely had to work harder to have our instructors come here safely to shoot the videos, and to have you be able to deliver such an incredible course while staying home has been such a gift to us and to everybody, because there was no way that this knowledge was going to get shared otherwise. You were supposed to be here in May, obviously everyone knows, and that didn't happen. And you took on quite the feat, because this course is just amazing. And we're really grateful that you learned those skills and that you've been able to use them. And you didn't know in the beginning if your studio was going to be able to reopen. So it's been very fortunate that we all are learning that we can engage this way, and yet we can stay home safely still and learn and keep learning all these different skills. And hopefully things transfer over and you build foundations and you learn different things that you can use from, a Kelly Knickerbocker course and a Caitlin Hepworth course, and then get your tints out and take on what Erin teaches. So there's just so many different ways you can go by, us having this platform, but you being able to share your stuff from across the world has just been a gift. Really grateful for it.
Yeah, and I think we're, and that's going to continue in a lot of ways. I think we're not out of the woods yet, but this is my course Focus on Form, where I'm teaching people how to build sculpture. But as I said, I do have a sculptural mosaics course available on Mosaic Hearts online, and that's an earlier course I did. But teaching sculpture is definitely one of my passions. But also, massive thanks to you guys for inviting me to do this and entrusting me to do this from the other side of the world. I mean, I'm not a filmmaker or anything like that. I must say a huge thank you to you and Jerry for taking a chance on this, and also a huge thank you to my boyfriend Jim, who's actually provided a lot of the tech support on this end and has been able to really help me to troubleshoot. I'm an artist. I'm not a tech person, but I'm learning very slowly. But he's been able to help a lot too.
I think you and I both know that we are successful, but we are definitely more successful based on the support we get from the partners that have their skills. So everyone comes with their own strengths to the party. And when you share those strengths, and you can just lift each other up. And that's definitely what Jim has done and Jerry has done for Mosaic Arts Online. So we're, you know, in a great space. And I want to say also, what I think is the beauty of taking a course from you, Caitlin, is that you do have this fine art background, and it just comes through in everything. You don't know how to teach without it. And I think it's just an extra benefit that you get when you take either your sculptural course or this course. Is drawing is just intuitive to you. It is just the way that you see things. It's the way in the sculpture course you go out into our property and got a leaf and turned it, and it actually became the mosaic. And just opening your eyes that way as an artist and a human is just so much richer, and just so grateful to have you with those skills sharing with our students. It's our community. It's really, really such a bonus.
And thank you. And that is really it. It's all about embedding the visual arts within, and then supplementing to what you already offer. I mean, you've got so many great tutors on Mosaic Hearts Online already that are they're all bringing their own thing, you know. And I think that's what it's about as well. What I said about the learning opportunity is that there's no one teacher anywhere that has all the answers. That's silly to think like that. There's no one best teacher. And you know, there's so many people that have so much to offer, and it's about trying to sort of focus in on the ones that resonate with you and that have the skills that you really want to learn, but not just to stick with that, but to then take that and then learn from someone else, and then learn from someone else, and then learn from someone else, and then bring that all together. Take a drawing class, take a printing class, take a clay class, and then how does that all inform your practice as an artist? And then how do you distill lovely, like a good scotch, you know, you distill it down into something that is you, and that you can embed into your own work. So I never want to be prescriptive. It must be this and must be that, but just to show people different ways that they can go about it. Yeah, no, that is definitely what our mission is at Mosaic Arts Online, is take from the whole pot and then build up your own voice. And it doesn't matter. There's no judgment. It is all about what feels good to you. We all come to this world with our own, you know, voice, our own style, our own everything, and it can evolve and change so much over time. Kelly Knickerbocker is one of the greatest examples of that I've watched evolve as a mosaic artist, and it's just lovely. She never stops learning, and I think any of us as instructors are always students, and never stop being a student. And I learned from my students a lot of the times. So it's a game that goes back and forth, and just grateful that this did work. I miss you. I wish you were here. We'd be having a really big fat glass of wine right now. But we're a little ways apart right now. And does anyone have any last questions before we share with you a little bonus gift of what Caitlin is generously offering here at Mosaic Arts Online? What does it say? Prepped for shells. Oh, that's a really good question. Someone's asking if you have to do any prep on the shells before you use them in the mosaic. Well, I try not to cut them, because cutting shell, you need to be very mindful of safety. I don't prep them because this is an interior mosaic. This is not going in the weather because it's going into a timber frame, so the frame cannot go outside. Therefore, the materials in here are sensitive to the environment, and so it's an indoor mosaic. The two things I would say is that I did backfill. So I backfilled a lot of the shells so that they're not a hollow thing sitting on the surface that could be crushed.
And you backfilled them with thin set, right?
Thin set, with the right color, so that it fits in and then fits on, so that the shell is supported from behind. The other thing I did do was I applied a stone sealer at the end, selectively over the mosaic to just give a little bit of protection to the surface of the shells and the stone, as well as to bring out the colors to bring out some richness of the colors of the shells and the stones. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see that there's a little sheen on that, and people see it when they can see it more up close in the course pictures. But before we go, I do want to say thank you so much, Caitlin, for joining us. Thank you so much for bringing this course to us. You really like put so much into this. It was really, really incredible, and I think people are going to be really fortunate to. Were you saying something?
Another question.
Oh, we have another question. Yeah, no, we're not going to stop.
On the sculptural mosaics,
Oh.
do you need additional? How do you give them strength other than hardwire?
Oh, you'd have to take the course for that, but I will see how Caitlin wants to answer that. Someone's asking how to add extra strength to the sculpture when you're making a sculptural mosaic other than the wire.
So
really is part of it.
So the armature, there's a wire armature, so you can use a snake mesh or a vermin mesh to start with. In that sense, a small sculpture. Then that's layered with the fiberglass mesh and thin set to be a robust form. That's a small form. Now, the big forms I make, that's not going to work because it'll collapse. You need an interior armature. So that could be made welded steel or a steel ring, or another weatherproof strong armature, which is an armature is a skeleton inside. And then over that, more fiber mesh and thin set and waterproofing agent to create a freestanding, self-supporting exterior quality substrate. So it depends on the size.
Yeah.
So the small one in the course, we could do snake mesh, and then we do then the thin set. But a bigger one, you need more interior structure. So you may even need to employ a fabricator to weld something. If you don't weld, you need to employ. Yeah. I hope that answers that question. But yeah.
The course definitely answers it and gives you lots of options on how to create with it. So before we go, hopefully everyone can see this, but this is, oh, I got to back up a little. This is the coupon code that will give you 15% off both of Caitlin's courses. So if you are interested in the sculptural mosaics that she does, you can get it now for 15% off. You're going to use the code Caitlin15. And you have this because we are dealing with such silly time change between Australia and here, and California, or I guess most of the states, is about to have a time change tomorrow night. We're extending this through Sunday night, midnight, California time. Whatever that means to you, you get it through Monday in Australia. Lucky you. Yeah. But it's Saturday in Australia anyway. So this is what you get, 15% off, expires Sunday night here in California time at midnight. Put in Caitlin15, and you'll find if you need to do Caitlin's Salvaged treasure course is boom right at the very front of Mosaic Arts Online, because we just are launching it. But if you need to put in the search bar of courses, you can just put in sculptural, and Caitlin's course will come up, and then you can purchase it for 15% off, which is really generous. We normally only offer 10% off of this course, of our courses for our launches, but because we're doing this live, and Caitlin's taken so much time on this, we wanted to give everyone a little extra celebration with 5% off. On Monday, when this sale does expire, the 15% off, it will go to 10% off for the rest of the week. So if you do miss our live and you don't see it, if you're seeing this and it's after Sunday, California time at midnight, you can still get it at 10% off with another code that will be emailed to you. So if they have anything else to share, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. Like, I really can't thank you enough.
Thank you. It's really been wonderful.
Right.
Live streaming is on.
Okay.
Well, for those of you that are still with us and having these small technical difficulties today, we are coming from Australia and California. I mean, I will give us that. That is a bit of a stretch. But for those of you that are here, again, Caitlin, you were saying,
I was just going to say, if you wanted to follow my work, so I'm under Caitlin Hepworth Mosaics on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm also under Hughes Studio on Instagram and Facebook. So Hughes Studio is my school and my students. Caitlin Hepworth Mosaics is me as an artist. So you can follow me there. I'm also part of the Mosaic Hearts Online students group. So I pop on there occasionally, and I love it when I can see students' work up there. And I'm always happy to answer questions. I know people post on the course and I can answer questions. And some people send me images of their work when they're finished. And gee, some of the work from last time is way better than mine. Way better. That
Shows you're a great
lady,
teacher.
oh my gosh, so good. And I just, but then again, I think, okay, well, I did do it in 3 days with basically no sleep, in Santa Barbara. But yeah, some of the work that you guys are doing, oh wow, I'm just very, very impressed. And obviously those students have actually built up their skills through the whole Mosaic Hearts online platform, as well as other tuition that they're doing in their hometowns. And the caliber of the work that some of these people are doing is outstanding. So go, very good, impressed.
Yes. But they wouldn't be making the kind of leaf sculptural mosaics that they're making if it weren't for you. So it is a total collaboration between students learning and the teachers sharing their knowledge. And it's just an amazing community. And I'm so grateful to have everyone be a part of it. I'm grateful that Jerry and I are facilitators in this. I never thought I'd be a full-time online course producer. I love it. I love our community. Everybody, please get on Students of Mosaic Arts Online. If you're not there yet, you need to be enrolled at Mosaic Arts Online to do it. But we have a lot more community information coming up soon, because there's nothing more important to us than engaging with all of you and serving our community, because it's truly our passion and we just love it. And it's because of people like Caitlin and the students, and it's just awesome. So I can't thank you enough.
Okay, well, fantastic. It's been wonderful. And I look forward to seeing the work people produce and fielding any questions.
Reach out. Thank you, everybody.